So coming into a seated position, you can be kneeling or cross-legged, whichever feels most comfortable for you. Having your shoulders above your hips. And closing your eyes, bringing your awareness to your breath. Feel free to sit on a block or a cushion, sit up against the wall if that feels better. And take the awareness to the breath, breathing in and out through the nose. Becoming aware of the breath in the upper abdomen, feel free to place your hands just above your belly button if that feels okay. Taking 5 breaths there. And then releasing your hands and taking another 5 breaths with your hands released on your lap, still thinking about the upper abdominal region. Moving the awareness into the mid-chest. Once again, feel free to cup the rib cage with your hands or place the back of the fingers on the outer rib cage. 5 breaths with the hands in the mid-chest. And then another 5 breaths with your hands gently resting on your lap. Mid-chest breathing. And taking your awareness now to the upper chest, place your hand gently on top of your collarbones. And take 5 breaths with your awareness in the upper chest. Breathing into the hand. Noticing any movement in the upper chest. And then releasing your hand and taking another 5 breaths in the upper chest, but with the hands resting in the lap. And then keeping the hands in the lap, thinking about the breath moving from the bottom to the middle to the top as you breathe in, and bottom, middle, top as you breathe out. So filling the lungs on the in-breath and emptying the lungs completely on the out-breath. And take 5 full breaths in this way. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the middle to the top, and emptying the lungs from the bottom to the middle to the top. When you've taken your 5 full breaths, just pause with the eyes still closed, becoming aware once more of the breathing. And bringing the hands to prayer position. And coming to the end of your mat, from kneeling, coming to cat position. So shoulders above wrists, hips above the knees. And just begin to rock backwards and forwards over your wrists, beginning to take a little bit of weight into your wrists. Spread the fingers. Keep the weight in all of the hand. And then perhaps circling the weight around. So moving the shoulders around the wrists in a circle one way, and then circling the other way, noticing how you can keep the whole of the hand down as you circle. Keeping the abdomen drawn gently into the spine as you do this. And if you can, begin to lift the heels of the hands, either one at a time or both at the same time, stretching the underneath of the fingers. And then we're going to work through some cat breathing. So breathing in, lift the tailbone, draw the chest through the arms, lift the head, and as you breathe out, rounding the back, tucking the tailbone. So moving through your cat breathing, 5 full breaths here, Breathing in, lifting the tailbone to the ceiling, lifting the head. Breathing out, tucking the tailbone, and the head comes down between the arms. Feeling that movement all the way up the spine. Starting from the tailbone and finishing at the crown of the head on the in-breath and the out-breath. And then threading the needle, so taking the right hand, thread it underneath the body, past the left hand, and bring the whole of the right arm to the floor, resting the head gently on its side, no discomfort in the neck. Feeling that both hips are level now, so there's equal weight through both knees. Taking 5 breaths and then going to the other side. Once again, the neck relaxed, just resting on the floor. The hips equal weight through the knees. And then coming back into cat position after your 5 breaths, and we're going to circle the hips. So from cat position, moving the knee into the chest and then out to the side, seeing how wide you can make that circle with your knee, moving from the hip joint. 5 circles, and then go to the other side, so left hip now, circling around. Back into cat, and then lifting the leg out to the side, keeping the knee bent, feeling the opening in the hip, the work going on in the glute as you lift the knee out to the side, keeping the knee bent. Once again, 5 on each side. And then taking the hips back to the heels, pushing yourself up into downward facing dog. Stepping forward, coming to the fronts of your mat. Surya Namaskar A. So breathing in, reaching up. And breathing out, folding, forward fold, tuck the chin. Breathing in, lifting and extending. Breathing out, either jumping or stepping back into Chaturanga. Breathing in, upward facing dog. Breathing out, downward facing dog. 5 breaths here. Position your hands and your feet so they're comfortable distance apart. Feeling the shoulders opening, feeling the heels drawing back down to the earth. The end of the 5th out breath, step forward. Breathing in, lift the chest, lift the gaze. Breathing out, fold, Uttanasana. Breathing in, coming all the way up, stretching up to the sky. And breathing out, back to prayer position. Number 2, breathing in, stretching up to the sky. Breathing out, forward fold, Uttanasana. Breathing in, lift and extend. Breathing out, jumping or stepping back, Chaturanga. Breathing in, scooping the chest forward and lifting the heart, upward facing dog. Breathing out, downward facing dog. 5 breaths in downward facing dog. Lifting your tailbone to the sky, opening up underneath the armpits. Feel free to soften the knees if that helps to open the chest, open the arms. If you're super open in the shoulders, keep the abdomen drawn in. At the end of the 5th out breath, jumping or stepping back towards your hands. Breathing in, lift, and breathing out, fold. Breathing in, lifting up, and breathing out, back to the start. Number 3, circling the arms up. Breathing out, fold, tuck the chin. Breathing in, lift and extend. Breathing out, jumping or stepping back. Breathing in, back arch, upward facing dog. Breathing out, downward facing dog. 5 breaths here. Opening up the backs of the knees, feeling the stretch down the back of the legs. Aiming for a straight line from the wrists to the shoulders to the hips. And another straight line from the hips to the heels. Stepping forward at the end of the 5th out breath. Breathing in, lift. And breathing out, fold. Breathing in, coming all the way up, stretch up to the sky, back to prayer position. Number 4, going in your own time. Jumping or stepping back into Chaturanga. Remember to move the heart forward, roll the shoulders away from the ears. And as you breathe out, come into downward facing dog. 5 breaths here. Feeling active through the hands, so spreading the fingers, pushing the ball of the index finger down. Gently pushing the floor away, feeling the triceps by the ears. The end of the 5th out breath, jumping or stepping forward, breathing in, creating length, and breathing out, folding. Breathing in, coming all the way up, and breathing out, last one. Breathing in, breathing out, forward fold. Breathing in, lift and lengthen. Breathing out, jumping or stepping back. The elbows tucked in, chaturanga. Breathing in, scoop forward, shoulders away from the ears. Breathing out, downward facing dog. 5 working breaths. Lifting the tailbone, feel the energy down the back of the leg. Drawing the abdomen in, keeping the lumbar spine neutral. Shoulders are strong. The end of the 5th out breath, jumping or stepping back. Breathing in, lift away from the legs. Breathing out, fold towards the legs. Breathing in, lifting all the way up. Breathing out, draw the hands to prayer position. Good. Coming to the centre of your mat, coming into Vrksasana, tree pose. So Tadasana first of all. Shoulders away from the ears, feeling strong in the legs. Lift up onto the toes of the right foot. Keep the hips level as you swing the knee out. And take the foot either keeping on the floor, on the inner calf or on the inner thigh. Avoid the knee area. Bring the hands into prayer position. Draw the belly back into the spine. If you want to lift the hands, you can lift the hands. Keep the torso neutral, remember. Pushing into the heel of the standing foot. Push the heel into the standing leg, I should say. And when you've done your 5 breaths, coming out, back into Tadasana, find your balance, and go to the other side. Keep the hips level, remember. Foot either on the inner calf or on the inner thigh, hands to prayer position. Feel free to play with the position of the arms, so you can steeple the fingers, open the hands wide if that feels nice. Hands can be parallel or in prayer position. The drishti, the gaze, soft. And coming out in reverse, back to Tadasana. Take the legs wide apart. Position the feet for Warrior 2. Bending that front knee, knee over the ankle, aiming for the thigh parallel to the floor. Shoulders away from the ears, arms horizontal to the floor. Feel energy through your fingertips, weight still in the back heel and the outer edge of the back foot. And then turning the palm face up, 5 breaths, breathing into reverse warrior, breathing out warrior 2. Breathing in reverse warrior, breathing out warrior 2. Keeping the legs strong. So 3rd breath, 4th breath, breathing in reverse warrior, breathing out warrior 2. Number 5, breathing in reverse warrior, breathing out warrior 2, and pausing here. Breathing out, stretch away, take the elbow to the knee, open the chest to the sky. 5 breaths in Parsvakonasana. Feel the weight in the outer edge of the back foot, energy up the leg, stretching the side of the body, lifting away with the fingers. If you want to drop your hand to the floor, please feel free, but keep the chest open. When you're ready to come up, nice big in-breath back into warrior 2, before straightening the legs and going to the other side. Remember to get an angle with the outer foot. Find that position so the front knee can come over the ankle. Going to the opposite side now. 5 breaths in warrior 2. Shoulders are stacked above the hips. And when you're ready, we're going to take 5 breaths, transitioning. So breathe in, reverse warrior. Breathe out, warrior 2. Breathing in, reverse warrior. Breathing out, warrior two. 3 more breaths like that, keeping the legs strong. Feeling that delicious side stretch, maximum space between the left hip and the top of the fingertips. When you've done your 5 breaths, return to warrior two. And then as you breathe out, take the elbow to the knee, Parsvakonasana for 5 breaths. Pushing the outer edge of that back foot into the mat, feeling the energy come up the leg. Straight line from the heel to the fingertips. Take your hand to the floor if you can do that without collapsing in the front of the body. And take another 5 breaths here before pushing into that front foot to come up. Straighten both legs, realign the feet. Take the hands to the hips and coming into a forward fold over wide legs. Feel free to soften the knees. Come halfway and pause. Just turning so you can see straight back. So softening the knees, drop the belly and the chest between the legs. Bending the knees, dropping the belly and the chest down. You can take the hands to a block, you can take your hands to the floor. You may even be able to drop the forearms to the floor. And when you found that angles released between your belly and your thighs, you can straighten the legs. Perhaps move on the breath, breathing in, lifting, breathing out, folding. Notice where the fold happens at the hips, it's not a rounding in the back. Bring your hands to your hips, soften the knees, and lifting up, coming into standing. Once more, soften the knees, folding from the hips. If you can, hold on to the toes, hold on to the toes. So the knees are bent, we're folding from the hips, dropping the belly and the chest between the legs, bending the elbows out to the side as you grip onto the big toes. And then using that grip on the big toes, push your toes into the floor and lift your tailbone to the sky. Prasarita Padottanasana. Breathing here for 5 breaths before softening the knees again. Releasing the toes, hold the hips, and breathe in, lifting all the way up. Jumping or stepping the feet together. Now take hold of a belt. Take your hands nice and wide on the belt, come into a comfortable seated position. Aiming to keep the belly drawn in, upper chest sinking slightly so the back stays straight, and we're moving the arms backwards and forwards. Take the arms as wide on the belt as you need to. Keep the arms straight without overextending in the elbows. If you do overextend, have a little bit of gentle bend in the elbows. If you find this becomes a little easier, you can move the hands closer together on the belt, moving the arms forwards and backwards, belly staying drawn in, lower ribs tucking in. And then releasing the belt. Bring the arms out in front and cross the arms and bend the elbows so the arms cross high up above the elbows, hugging yourself, taking the hands on your shoulder blades behind your back, perhaps walking the hands in, keep the elbows lifted, then releasing and going to the other side. Elbows pressing together, lift the elbows, 5 breaths, walking your hands together behind your shoulder blades. And releasing. Just turning around so you can see, we're going to come into Gomukhasana arms now. So lifting one arm up to the sky, bend the elbow and place the hand onto the very base of the neck. The other hand sweeps around, place the back of the hand on the mid-back and see if you can interlink the fingers. Absolutely fine to have a belt here, so I'm going to demonstrate that on the other side with the belt. Start with the arms wide. Lift the opposite arm up to the sky, bend the elbow and hold the belt in that top hand and allow it to dangle down so that when you swim the bottom arm round, place the back of the hand on the back and then hold the belt. Then once you've got hold of the belt, you can begin to walk the hands towards each other using the belt. Take your time. So one elbow pointing up, the other elbow pointing down. If your fingers reach, you can release the belt. And pause here for a few breaths before releasing, getting rid of the belt again. We're going to come into puppy pose now. So from cat, keep your hips above your knees and begin to walk the hands away as far as you can go. Sink your chest down towards the floor. Keep the arms straight. Keep the hands in contact with the floor. Draw the abdomen in. Sinking the chest down, opening under the armpits. This is a passive puppy pose. If you want to create more space, you can come up onto the fingertips. Keep sinking down. I'm going to go with an active version now. So draw the belly in actively. Tuck your lower ribs in actively. Look towards your belly if you have space. If not, just look straight ahead. And we're still encouraging the shoulders down, but we're staying active. And then release that active puppy and come into a passive puppy pose for another few breaths here. Once more, try the active variation. So draw the belly in, draw the lower ribs in. Keep opening under the armpits despite that activation. And then releasing. Taking a bit of time to come onto your back now. So bend the knees, bring the soles of the feet on the floor. We're going to come into a figure 4 with the legs. So taking the right ankle over the right knee. Avoid any pressure on the ankle joint. Then gently encouraging that right knee away from you, opening from the hip joint. It's fine to stay there. If you want to lift the left foot off the floor and hold around the back of the thigh or the right shin, the left shin, that's fine. Opening in that right hip joint, flexing the toes, flexing the foot of the right ankle. Help protect the knee. If you can go even deeper, then cradle that right lower leg with the arms. One elbow around the knee, one elbow around the sole of the foot. And releasing the left foot to the floor. Otherwise, just staying in any of the previous variations, just opening in that right hip joint. And then releasing that right leg and go to the left. So left ankle over the right knee, and encouraging that left knee open. Noticing that we're trying to rotate the thigh outwards. If you want to, you can stay there. Otherwise, you can lift the right foot from the floor, hold around the right shin or around the back of the right thigh. Encouraging that left shin towards you. Once again, stay here if that's far enough. If you do want to cradle that lower leg, feel free to do so. And then allowing the right foot to come down. Thinking about your tailbone sinking down towards the mat all the time. So in our enthusiasm to lift the leg, we can sometimes lift all of the back off. Keeping that tailbone down if you can. Good. Crossing the ankles, holding the feet, and rocking yourself up into a seated position. We're going to come into Gomukhasana now. So starting in Dandasana, draw your right knee in and take the right foot onto the outside of the left leg. Use the hands to help you sit tall and then find a position that's comfortable in your hip. So you might just want to open the hip out, keep the foot in the same position, just opening the leg. If you can draw the right foot a little closer to the hip, drawing the foot all the way up towards the hip if that's comfortable. It's fine to keep the left leg straight, or if you want to also draw that left foot into the hip, please feel free. We've already practiced the arms position, so come into your version of Gomukhasana arms using a belt if you need one, or just clasping the hands behind the back. When you've taken your 5 breaths, release. Releasing the legs, coming back into Dandasana, And going to the opposite side, so left foot on the outside of the right leg. Taking the position that works best for you. If that's just dropping that knee out to the side, that's fine. Perhaps the left foot comes halfway up the thigh, it might come all the way up to the hip. And then you might want to also bend the right leg and draw the right foot towards the left hip. Know that it's fine to keep that right leg straight. If you can't get both sitting bones to the floor, then I'd encourage you to have that right leg straight out still. Using your arm position that works for you for Gomukhasana, either interlacing the hands or using about 5 breaths here. And then releasing the arms, releasing the legs, and taking a forward fold. Now to even out the asymmetric Gomukhasana posture. So Paschimottanasana, taking hold of a belt around your feet, breathing in, sitting tall. With each out breath, feel that you can fold a little from the hips and know that you might stay seated upright with the shoulders above the hips. If that gives you a hamstring stretch, then absolutely fine to stay there. Only folding when you feel that you have the space in the hamstrings so that you can come down into your forward fold without rounding the back too much. It's only at the end of the forward fold that we allow the back to round and allow the shoulders to release. Wherever you are, breathing in and sitting up. And we're going to now come into Shavasana. And then laying down on your backs, bend your knees, bring the soles of the feet onto the floor. Tuck your tailbone under, feel you have length in the back of the neck. As you breathe in, push through the feet and lift the hips up. And as you breathe out, bring the hips back down. So feel that you can be flexible in the spine here. So breathing in, the hips come up, then the lower back, then the mid-back. And as you breathe out, mid-back comes down, lower back comes down, tailbone. Keep breathing in that way, breathing in, lifting up, and breathing out, lowering down. Feel free to reposition the feet. Feel that you can power through the feet to lift up. And on the next in-breath, hold the hips up. Keep the hands down by your sides. Keep pushing through your feet, lifting your hips as high as you can. Perhaps interlace the fingers behind your back, straight arms. Allow yourself to push through your arms to lift your upper chest a little bit higher. Feel that you're pushing your upper chest in towards your throat. Keep space in the back of the neck. And if you have lifted the hips high enough, you may be able to bend the arms, place the hips into the hands, and lift one leg. Stretch the leg out and then repeat to the other side. So keeping one foot down. Keep lifting out of your hands. Coming into bridge pose, releasing the hands and perhaps repeating the same movement with the leg. This is quite strong. You need to push through the feet to keep the hips lifted actively. One leg lifts. Release that one to the floor and then lift the other one. And then slowly releasing down back towards the floor and drawing the knees into the chest to release the back. Crossing the ankles, coming up into sitting or staying on your back. Releasing the arms out to the side, coming into Jatara Parvriti twists. So breathing out, take the knees to the right, take 5 breaths. With your knees over to the right, your head gently turned towards the left. Feel free to draw one ankle on top of the other, one knee on top of the other. And if that feels okay, you might want to draw the knees up a little higher towards your elbow into your armpit. Feel free to hold those legs if that feels better. Bring the belly in, lift the knees into the center, place the feet back onto the floor. And take the knees over to the left, head turning towards the right. 5 breaths here, allowing the body to release. A nice passive twist. If you want to draw the legs together, that's fine. You may also want to draw the knees up towards the elbow, increasing that twist in the spine, releasing the opposite shoulder and arm down to the floor. And when you're ready to come up, draw the belly in, breathe in, draw both knees into the chest. Feel free to draw the forehead up to the knees, round the back, and then releasing back to the floor. The arms come out to the sides, extend the legs away, coming into Shavasana to close your practice. Good, breathing in and out through the nose, the eyes closed. Length in the back of the neck, tucking the tailbone under, allowing the legs to release out to the sides. It's fine to have the knees bent if that feels better for you. The arms are comfortably resting on the floor by the sides of your body. Your eyes are closed, soft behind the eyelids. Giving yourself this time to release and relax completely. Making any micro adjustments you need to make so that your body is completely comfortable. And then coming into stillness. Gentle breath in and out through your nose. Body releasing into the floor. Your limbs are heavy. Your head comfortably supported at the top of your neck. Breathing is soft and relaxed. With each out breath, feel your body softening even further, even deeper into the support of the floor. Be comfortable, be content, releasing, relaxing, and letting go. Taking this time to allow the body to rejuvenate, allowing the relaxation to flow through every cell of your body, from the tips of your fingers to the tips of the toes. Softening and letting go. Noticing the rise and fall of the abdomen as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Know that in a moment we're going to come out of Shavasana. Know that you can stay here for as long as you want to. And whenever you're ready to come out, just take a couple of deeper, longer breaths. Send that breath down into your fingers, into your toes. Bringing energy back into your body. And whenever you're ready, know it's absolutely fine to stay here as long as you need to. When you're ready to come out, just take a gentle stretch. Move your body in any way that feels right for you. Very gently rolling over onto your side, taking some breaths here. Coming into a seated position and closing your practice by bringing your hands to prayer position. Namaste.